I'm saying it nicely. If you're listening and you're saying, is he talking to me?
Probably. If you have to think about that, it's probably.
I'm just going to go with the long pause. Dramatic effect. Yes.
Welcome into Facts Not Feelings. Beware of those confident voices that might be speaking a little too authoritatively outside their domain. Now, it's easy to fake expertise in our super viral world today. Today, that is what we're going to be discussing. We're going to be exploring how to spot those unmerited claims and amplify those voices that actually do, call me crazy, but the real work. Our guest today is Dan Moore, recently appointed president of Dealer World and board member of Dealer Funnel. Now, Dan has decades of leadership and expertise across our automotive industry. He's also one of my dear friends, and so I'm so excited to bring him back on the show because he's been on here. He was on very early in Facts Not Feelings, so he's on for round 2, mainly because he's awesome and he's super, super knowledgeable. But also, Dan, I had to bring you back on because you got to get the whole Facts Not Feelings extravaganza and everything with Facts Not Feelings. But he's also seen firsthand how some voices gain huge, massive followings while the actual experts, they just get drowned out. And as a seasoned executive, Dan's also going to share his insider perspective on how you can spot those signs of how someone might be claiming expertise and, man, they just don't actually have that. You're going to be able to learn from him today and his deep knowledge of how to be more discerning of that information that you take in every single day. Dan, I am so looking forward to this conversation. We've been talking offline. We've been talking for a little bit now about this exact episode and how needed this episode is. So I cannot thank you enough for joining us here today on Facts Not Feeling and diving into this specific topic. So, so excited to have you in here today, Dan.
Well, thanks for having me. I mean, obviously this should be entertaining. It's exciting to be on for a second version under a new flag. So it should be lively.
That's a very, very much I'll say an understatement. And because it's such a needed topic, we are going to dive right into you're like, you really want to start with that question, Brooke? I'm like, no, we're just going to dive right into it. And so with that, you've seen so many self-proclaimed, we're going to call them expert. And they might even dub themselves an expert or a guru or whatever they want to call themselves. But they're making these unsupported claims. And in your experience, what drives people to make these like bold statements without any expertise whatsoever to back them up?
Well, I mean, it ties into marketing, right? I mean, it's always, I can say anything I want to until you prove me wrong, right? So, I mean, we've been doing this a long time. Again, when you think about the different platforms that are out there and the ability to just, again, have a show, right? Or jump in a, clubhouse and have a room or whatever the case may be, everybody's leveraging social media or communication and trying to create velocity to create their own self-proclaimed status. I think it's interesting. You see a lot of people out there that, again, I think, when I think back to when we were in automotive and we're primarily on Twitter, for example, and we were running that game and everybody was posting content and being an authority. It still laughs and some of us joke, we pull some of those tweets back up. We're like 15 years later, it's still the same topic. Someone else is proclaiming it. It's funny, but it's one of those points, unfortunately for the dealer, of trying to, how do I cut through the noise and understand am I just being sold something or does it really work? And usually, there's that back channel to it of the celebrity's got an agenda at the end of the day. The question is does the agenda align with you and your strategies? And does it ultimately return an ROI to your business, whatever that might be?
I'm just going to say very, very well said. So whether it's not necessarily just have to be a young person, it could be anyone in the industry at this point, but how do you teach people the real value of knowledge over an uninformed opinion or feelings, hence the name of the show of Facts Not Feelings? But how do you distinguish between the two?
Well, I think first and foremost, you got to understand is what is the conversation, A lot of times an expert goes a little bit too far past a certain point of where their lane was. When you have conversations about, hey, here's some areas that I'm seeing opportunity in, and here's some tactics that we use to generate success, and here's some of the success that we had. Okay, that starts to gain ground. When you're just making bold claims, and I mean, for me, it's challenging if you think back to when I was at Dash and we're looking at data, and I spent the last 6.5 years looking at data, and you hear people online of, oh, I live by the data. And a lot of these people, I was like, you're literally saying that online, and I know what your house looks like.
And it's messy.
And it's messy. And so it's like, be careful of the noise that you create, because you may get back into that one conversation, that one time, that one conference, that one panel, where suddenly, you just don't want to have egg on your face at the end of the day. So stay in your swim lane, know your stuff, but be a student. I think too many times people are starting to push the guru and the master of things, when in reality, especially around this marketing, when you think about the space of marketing, it's ever changing. We get too hung up on the tactics and not the strategy. And I think that's where we lose sight on, hey, if we executed something, then what happened? Because we get into this whole, some of the experts out there like, only do paid search, all your money on paid search. Well, why? Why are you saying that? Oh, conveniently, it's all you have to offer. Number one. Number two is, does that work for everybody? And I think that's the fundamental problem, is dealers have their own unique identity, their own fingerprint. So the tactics deserve the right to change and influx based on the strategies and the things that are happening in the dealership. Yes, they want to sell more cars, but that's the byproduct of what you need to do. You got to have the product, you got to have the tactics, right, and the strategy, and then you got to have the people and process to execute it. I think sometimes we get little fragments of things and people stick a flag in it, and that's the end all be all. It's like, no, there's variations where I can say, yeah, paid search works really good over here, but a direct mail piece would work better over here, or so on and so forth. I think that is the fundamental problem of too much concrete and finite, instead of being understanding of the fact that dynamics change, needs change. If you look back over the last few years, a lot of things have changed, and we're still kind of going after the same tactics and not really educating the fact that we do have some challenges coming our way. No one's talking about fixed ops in the manner it should be talked about right now, given the fact that new car warranty work is going to dwindle based on the fact that over the last 3 years, new cars haven't been selling at the normal volumes that they have. So there's consequences for every action, but yet we're taking different plays and proclaiming our expertise and not paying attention to, hey, here's things you need to be aware of. Because I think if you're going to put to the expertise side of it, is have an understanding of what's going on in the space that you work in, have an understanding of what conditions present, and providing solutions or options and creativity around solving some of those problems, but ultimately ended with, this was the outcome.
Amen.
Not that I just looked at, how many visitors and impressions, and I use basic, website metrics to validate my performance, which is really sad, but I digress.
And it's interesting that you bring this up on so many levels. I was having a conversation recently with multiple people, multiple stories here, but one in particular, even on the metric standpoint of trying to figure this out, whether it's on the GA4 front, which it is kind of a hot mess, as we all know. If you're following GA4, it is a kind of a hot mess, but trying to figure that out. And if you have one party, let's all take a drink now. Let's be honest. We just said a buzzword. So, but
shots at this point,
I need a shot glass at this point. But going through that, and you have one party saying it's this, one party saying it's this, one party, but they're all claiming to be, oh, we know what we're talking about. I go, that's interesting, because you're working out of this property, you're working out of this party, this party. We've all asked you to work out of the dealer's property, which is the clean property, but you're all working out of like 3 different properties. So which is the real one? And so just
first and foremost, did you say the dealer's property is clean?
Well, if I set it up, it is.
Well, it is until everybody throws their mess in there, though.
Well, that's also very true. That's very true.
And we haven't seen that yet. I mean, we're talking about GA4 and predictions. It's like you don't have views anymore. You have a single ground. Everybody's going to dump into the dealers because dealer wants transparency, which is great. But you have all of this data going in. How clean do you think you're going to get it? And then based on the number of interactions and the things that change and the fact that people like to rotate vendors, it's going to be an interesting game.
Well, and so I'm looking at one of my clients, and the one property has events and coming into them. The dealer's property has completely different events firing into them. And I go, well,
Yeah.
so what's going on here? Well, if this property doesn't contact all the 8,000 different vendors out there and the website company, the events they're not gonna see the same events. So there's all this different communication. Everyone wants to, not everyone, a lot of people want to sit and pound their chest that we're the end all be all. And not that everybody's like that. There are a lot of people like that. Not everybody, but there are a lot that want to pound their chest and say, we are the best and we are this and we are this. Well, then where's the communication? Because if you are, quote unquote, looking out for the dealer's best interest, you're going to have that open communication. You're going to work with the competitor. You're going to work with all those different people to say, let's find out what success looks like to you, the dealer, so we can get there. But you're going to have that communication with every single person in order to get there, in this case with GA4. But even on the fixed ops side, I have another conversation with a fixed ops individual, and we were discussing all this, and I said, so how are you setting up X, Y, and Z to have this? And even when it comes to marketing and this and that, and how often do we have that conversation with a dealer? And they're like, oh, we don't really even have a budget for that. I go, well, if you don't have that, 83% of your phone calls are coming in are going to, the calls are coming in for service, but you think sales is paying for it. So then all this is going out there, it's falling on deaf ears, and service is, all those calls are for service. So who's having that conversation?
Well, but here's the problem. If you go back to data and we talk about data measurement, the biggest fundamental challenge is we have overcomplicated everything. Because when you complicate, it's like sleight of hand. If I overcomplicate something, you don't want to dig in. I can sidestep, and both, it doesn't matter who, but if you're taking data and overcomplicating it, you can make it tell a narrative to whatever you want to, and it's not going to give you the honest read. And I think as an industry, simplicity still wins, and I think we've lost our way there. If we go back to the simplest of things and just say this, at the end of the day, if I understand that my product is being looked at, meaning I'm getting people to my website, to my dealership, and they're engaging with my product, right? We would say that's step one. Step two, am I getting conversion? Meaning, am I winning on the fact of conversion, which is at-bats for your team in the store? Or simply put in the buzzword of, if you're getting leads, right? You can call them conversions. We'll just use the word leads. We all want more leads. So when I get more leads, the question then becomes, what do I do with those leads? So I have a lot of leads, and then I convert and I get sales, hopefully, right? And then we got to ask ourselves too, because here's the dirty math. We can all go in and consult for stores and be like, oh, your close rate sucks. You're at 8%. You're at 10%. You tell me you're 22% all day long, warm and fuzzy, whatever.
Yeah.
We'll get past those metrics. But nonetheless, what we're not being honest about, and very few can find or uncover this unless you have certain CRM providers, where did the leads come in and what vehicles were the leads inquiring on? Because if you got a unique piece of inventory and 70% of the leads are coming in on one vehicle or two or three, or call it five, and let's just say they're used vehicles, you only have one of those for the most part. So all this traffic, and then you're getting banged up on a low conversion rate, when in reality, there's no way you can convert anyways. And I'm not even talking about the bad leads, the duplicates, and all the other fun math that we can do. But I'm just saying, like, if we don't know what we don't know, I think we get too concerned on who are we going to fire, calling BS, being skeptics, instead of understanding our business. And this goes on both sides of the fence here, from dealers to vendors, is if we also are focusing on the right thing, which is, are we helping the dealer move their inventory or get people in the service drive? Can we measure that effectively and work together to uncover the things like, again, you brought up paid search, great one. So I get a lot of service traffic. Okay, well, why aren't vendors putting negative keywords in some of their new car campaigns to back out service?
Yeah.
And why are they being transparent?
Yeah.
If you won't give you access to your dealer to see your AdWords campaign, question mark?
Yeah.
There's no proprietary stuff. Keywords are keywords.
Agreed.
There's no monkey math to this. I think we're trying to overdo everything. So it's like, oh, well, we have proprietary information. It gets a special whatever. Paid search, guys. There's people that do it really well, and there's people that don't.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So let's take this a step further.
That's why I like certain companies, even though, like, listen, between Self-Plug or even looking at our friends at like Foundation Direct, all ex-Google people, they understand the methodology. they're doing the right things, they're transparent about what they do, and they show it. Others, not so much. They do some snake oil stuff. It's kind of cute.
Yes, and
Which led me to get back into this, bro. This is why I'm getting back to.
I was just going to do that. I'm just going to tee that up for you. I was like, you've looked at so much data. So what made you then switch to be like, hey, I've looked at so much data. Now you've taken a step into dealer funnel, into dealer world. So what made you make that transition? And then we'll get back to the other things we're discussing.
Yeah, I mean, the transition was interesting, and I mean, there's some great stories behind that. But the simplicity of it all for me was, I spent 6.5 years looking at the data. I've spent 6.5 years watching what's going on, seeing some of these, marketing providers do some things that I would agree and disagree with, and ultimately looking at a lot of tactics and things being done, and to the point of frustration of going, just let me get the strategy right and execute. And so, and for those that are watching that have heard me say this, I said, if I ever got agitated enough, I would just go back to the agency game and turn the heat up. I guess I got agitated.
Yes.
And I was looking to be disruptive. And that's kind of the name of the game. But I think it's just high time that I think tactics are getting old and strategy means everything. And too many people are pulling on the tactic string and they're not paying attention to the strategy. When you look at the fact of how marketing's done, it's very linear. It's like, okay, well, I'm just doing paid search. I'm just doing this. Where's the strategy of saying that, hey, because of, if you think back over the last few years, things have been very different. So shouldn't your marketing be different? Shouldn't I be looking at my marketing monthly, quarterly, and so on and going, hey, I'm going to shift gears. We spent heavy this way. I'm not going to stay consistent here. I see a better opportunity to go execute against, maybe I'm doing an email or something along those lines, because now with the evolution of the CDP, customer data platform, marketing should be changing, because based on the information and based on having this data of the customer, knowing all this information, should change the tactics that I execute against on a monthly basis based on the data that I'm coming in and out. If this customer came in and had service and opted out and left, well, maybe I hit them with an email and they don't respond. Boom, I hit them with a mail piece. Maybe I haunt them on social media. I'm going to pull tactics based on the strategy. And with the CDP, then I'm going to want that data, and that data is going to be consistently evolving. So should my tactics. I shouldn't just be doing the cookie cutter stuff I've been doing for years upon years just because it was co-opable or whatever. It's like, no, do things to move the needle.
So you're saying I shouldn't always do what the OEM tells me to do and just do co-opable things, Dan? What?
I'm not beating up on the OEM. I'm just saying most people spend their co-op money anyways. It's like, why not look at other things and be a little bit more on the R&D side of, like, why are you doing things a little bit different? If your rail is this and then you burn your co-op this way, then why not have some exploration over here to find better ways to engage with your customer?
Agreed. The co-op has gone so quickly. So let's take this a step further. So going back real quickly is we're speaking a little bit about, hey, expertise. Are you really doing your homework to know your shit more or less? Are you just getting up there because the camera's on and I can get some followers and get some likes, get some thumbs up, some hearts, some whatever the emoji may be? So you've got someone that's maybe speaking maybe a little bit beyond their qualifications. What is the best way to respond? Are you going to engage with them, ignore them, call them out on their BS? I know maybe what you and I are going to do, but what would you tell the audience to do?
I mean, listen, at the end of the day, everybody's got to start somewhere. It's like, I equate it to going to the gym. To the person that got really, really big, that looks like whoever, professional bodybuilder, you started out as a runt, you moved your way up. I mean, everybody has to start somewhere. So I'm not going to knock anybody for taking a leap of faith and trying. What I would just say is two sides of the story. For those that are getting up there, stay in your lane, know where you came from, know people have been watching. So where you try to over-index, people are paying attention. So don't fake it to make it. Put in the work, put in the effort, do the right thing. For the audience, be curious. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is we take everything at face value. Be curious, ask questions, be respectful, but ask questions.
Yeah. I
mean, a lot of people come from retail and go into the vendor space, get on the speaking circuit. I mean, the playbook's the playbook. There's nothing new there. Welcome to the pay-to-play extravaganza, right? Just remember, those coming from retail give you a piece of advice. Just because everybody loves you today, they'll forget about you tomorrow when you cross that line.
Yep.
So be smart.
Yes.
But I do think, though, it's important for anybody coming in is just be respectful, be open, collaborate. We have a lot of people that quote unquote say they're collaborators. They are not.
Nope.
And look at it. Look at the circles. You can see in the industry everybody that stays in the same tribes. I mean, we literally do have this. It's kind of funny. There's those that move around, those that are non-existent. I mean, heck, for the most part, people give me a hard time because I'm on social. I'm like, well, I like to get my hands in the soil and do the work.
Yep.
So promoting is one thing, educating is another thing. I think you just got to figure it out, and you just got to pay attention, and you got to understand who resonates with you. In some cases, that's a different thing too. And relationships matter. So lean in on your relationships, because that's how you fact check people, is you go around the horn. I mean, as an industry, there's that closed loop behind the curtain that kind of goes, yes, no, maybe so.
Yes. And if you're staying in an echo chamber and just continually, that's the other thing I have found real quickly is that when you and I met, like, I already had my company up and going, but prior to that, I was I was rarely on social, but I was like, okay, I've got a company, gonna have to be on there to brand, yada, yada, yada. And that was a big switch for me. But one thing I'd always said from the very beginning, I will never turn on the camera unless I can be honest with myself. And if I can't, or there's something going on that I can't be honest with the audience, I will never turn on the camera. And what I have found is I've went on this journey of this whole social situation here, is there are people that will just want to hear themselves reverberate back to themselves, and they're just like talking to a wall. And it's just this echo chamber. It's like, well, if someone doesn't agree, I remember you and I were talking, I think it was back at, I think it was MRC. It was, once again, it was a GA4 situation. And you said something that was just, and you know how my mind works. And I just went down like a rabbit hole about phone calls. I was like, hold up. Come again. Like, what did you just say? And then for like the next like half a day, and you're like, Brooke, let's get you some tequila and calm down. Like, but it was like that moment of like, everyone else was talking about something else. And I just go, I've never even thought about that. But it wasn't until you brought it to my attention, and because you asked the question, and it was the hard question that no one else was saying, I go, damn it. Like, why is no one else asking this question? And because of that, my mind just went down. And I was so grateful that you asked it, because I was like, whoa, wait a second. And then since then, if I don't know the answer to something, how I work, I'm like, I got to get the answer. I got to get the answer. But it's those questions when someone asks it, when it's done in the right mindset to, hey, I want to help somebody. I want to know the answer. Let me help you on this. And me, like so many times with you and I've had those conversations of like, hey, well, Brooke, that's probably not the smartest thing to do. Or, hey, what about this way about doing it? And I was like, oh, I mean, the number of times you've helped me on things like that, like, hey, let's maybe take a different angle. I was like, oh shit, I didn't even think about that. So really getting out of those echo chambers and thinking, okay, think about it from this direction, thinking of this direction, and constantly setting aside time to learn and craft whatever skill set it is so insanely important. So important.
Well, I agree with that. And it's funny that you bring that one up, because I think a lot of people want help and don't always take it. I mean, I make a serious joke about this. Somebody me watch the show. I've always said, my phone's on, I'm always here to help. And I make a joke about like, I don't profit from it. I don't charge.
Mm-hmm.
Pick up the phone, I'll collaborate. Whomever, don't care. And it's funny because the phone never rings. I'm like, and then I watch it, and I'm like, so let me get this straight. You just paid to have that happen. And I'm trying to save you from that. So there is a kind of an interesting methodology to why you say sometimes people won't say things. I would say from my perspective, when you're, having run Vista Dash, it was one of those things of when you're an agnostic platform, you kind of have to be a careful bringing, because you can, if I come out and just say, hey, ABC is, crap. If I come out and say, oh, I saw this shitty thing happen today. Good job, Blake company. There's gonna be some penalties and some red flags on that one, and that's the part. Sometimes, having done that, now is a little bit interesting game for me, because I can be a little bit more vocal, because A, I know what I know. B, I've been in the industry a long time, and
you've seen a lot of data.
That's the other problem. I've been looking at a lot of data, so it's like I have I'm going to say I have an opinion. I just have some facts. I have some facts that things could be done better, should be done better. And, it's time to shake things up a little bit.
A little bit, just a little bit there. And to your, and let's just, there was other things that like, as I prep on these notes that I don't know that some people know about you. You're not just, hey, you were with Mr. Dash and did incredible work there. You're now with Dealer Funnel, Dealer World, but you also are a TEDx speaker. You have a book. I mean, so your resume is so, it's like, is very, very intensive to say the least. So to say that you have knowledge and that you have expertise, and that is some word I know that you and I are very big on, like words like expert and guru and whatever other terms, synonyms you want to throw in, like we're like, kind of stay away from those. But you really do have all of those credentials, like you really do. So I know whenever I'm like, shit, I can't figure this step, I'm like, speed dial Dan. All right, Dan, help me out on this one. Because you really are on speed dial.
It comes down to, no, I mean, listen, I appreciate it. I enjoy our friendship, and I support you 100%. Anything that you do. I think for me, it's I kind of tell people, I'm like, listen, what I have to offer is saving you the time from all the mistakes I made. I have the expertise in failures that may help you get ahead if you want it. And I think that's the difference. And it's in every capacity. So whether I'm at a 20-group meeting and talking to dealers, like, hey, I not only did, I can see it from years of data, but I was in the dealership. I mean, I started selling cars at 19. I've ran a dealership. I understand the mechanics. Now, somebody like, well, Dan, you've been out for a long time. Like, I get it, but I understand the fundamentals. It's like kind of getting on the bike. There's certain things that happen. The business hasn't like overshot the runway by that far. Let's be honest. Okay. And I'm not saying that in a negative tone. My success outside of automotive, from TED Talk to whatever, I always look back and give nods to automotive. This industry will provide you an endless amount of opportunity if you embrace it. If you do things the right way, and you always put your ethic and your integrity in front of all, you will progress immensely in this industry, 100%. And I think that's the part that people have to understand, no matter what you're trying to do. Just be a good human being, because I'm going to tell you one little dirty secret. This industry is very small for as big as it is.
Mm-hmm.
Better do a Rolodex on the bridges you're burned and the people you've maybe MF'd or the crap you've talked, because if you didn't think you got back to that person, whoo,
sure did. Yeah, I said it such.
I mean, that guy on the phone calls me like, "Oh, you're saying my stuff doesn't work." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm saying it doesn't work, and here's why it doesn't work." I'm like, happy to have the conversation. I mean, if you look back on your phone, I shot you a text and be like, "Hey, you might be concerned with your campaign you're running right now. It's a little dirty, but I mean, hey, well,
yeah,
so say, be good humans, and take some. Like, it's okay to get a little criticism. Something could be better. Some people blow a head gasket because someone says one thing about something. They're like, "Are you trash talking my business?" No, I'm just stating a fact that this is not good.
No,
if you did this, you would fix it. Like,
it is so true, and it's such wise advice, because if you as an owner, as a whatever, whether you own something, whether you're a director, whatever your title may be, if you can't take the constructive criticism, maybe you need to check yourself. Because if I can't have someone, whether it be a friend or a colleague, say, "Hey, Brooke, hey, you probably need to take a look at XYZ. Hey, thank you so much." How else are you supposed to get better? Like, how else am I supposed to get better? So I'll go a little bit step further on this, is that what signs and what I'll say red flags can someone, if they're looking at someone that maybe an expert not be claiming that maybe they just don't have. So how can listeners then evaluate those claims critically when those red flags might be popping up a little bit? How can they see those?
I think it's, some of it's a little bit easy. Listen to what's being said. I mean, when you figure, if you take GA4, for example, everybody's talking about GA4 and everybody's going to be a proclaimed expert in GA4.
Mm-hmm.
Just start putting the rails together. I mean, if you take like a George Minnie, for example, he knows his stuff, like tried and true. Does it mean that there might be something new that changed or missed somewhere? Yeah, but as far as someone that's solid, that would be a solid nod. Someone else coming up is trying to throw some stuff out there that's maybe a little bit out of whack based on some of the things that you've heard. I always say you just kind of validate information. If I hear it once, I kind of go, okay. If I hear it twice, now something smells a little fishy. And again, it's one of those things of, if you're in this business, you're a skeptic by heart anyway. So your spider senses and your gut's going to tell you, I'm not buying what's being sold because it's getting sold a little too hard here. And I think that's what I always say. Listen to your gut, number one, fact check, and go outside your circle and get the feedback, because being in circles too is dangerous, because it is an echo chamber. So everybody's going to rally around the same thing. If you're in a certain group, that certain group has their set of people that you can interact with, and they advise are good, and they say these are the following ones that aren't good. That's the world we live in.
Yes. And once again, because this industry is so big yet so small, we have so many people that you can reach out to that person and say, hey, so whether it's a product, whatever it may be, just say, hey, is this as good as it, or is this person, whatever the question is, but reach out. And if you continue to reach out to I'll say the same people, depending on the topic, just to Dan's point, please do your research. Like, I know that I set an hour aside to work on whatever, whether that be AI, whether that's Google Analytics for whatever it may be. But I set an hour aside each day to craft whatever it is I need to be crafting and hone that skill, because you've got to continue to hone that. And there's so much, especially like in my business, I need to know. I got to know everything. I know that sounds crazy, but whatever the newest thing's coming up. So if a client asks me about X, Y, and Z, at least I have an idea. Hey, this is going to be a good partner for you, or this tool, hey, they're claiming a lot of stuff, but it's actually just smoke and mirrors, or whatever it may be. But if you don't take the time to really do your own research, and you're just not relying on some talking head to be like, well, this person said it was really great, so it must be great because they have 15,000 followers. Well, what is to say that they just weren't paid to make that statement? So really doing your research to understand, is this really a good product? And even if it is a good product, it might not be the best product for your people and process. So understanding all of that to know what works best for you. It's just really, really
come up with a shopping manual, because ultimately it's pretty simple. If you're hearing people talk because you're looking for a product, or you're looking for an expertise, which generally leads to a product or a problem that you're trying to solve, I think ultimately it comes down to like this. If you're going to groups, your group meetings, and it's like, hey, ABC has this product and they're selling X amount of cars, so now I'm going to cancel everything and go with that, you've already lost. Yeah, if you're going to a conference and you just sign up for everything because you found a new shiny widget and it's going to proclaim to solve the universe, you probably already lost. To your point, Brooke, I think the part that everybody has to look at, and it doesn't care what industry, what you're in, what you do on either side of this fence, is if you're looking at if you look at yourself first, and I think this is where the problem really becomes. It probably solves this whole conversation, really. If you look at yourself and you look at your business and you understand what are the key things that we're doing well and not so well, and what are the things that we're trying to solve, what is our overall strategy? Which, again, when I start asking what is your strategy, that seems to open up, and this is a great question, right? First question, what's strategy? You can ask that to anybody. That's going to tell you where you're going to go, whether you got something or not, because what is your strategy? So as a dealer, what is your strategy? Yes, I understand. Sell and service more cars. Great.
move poor metal.
What's your strategy? Are you doubling down and buying more used cars and you're just kind of rolling with new? Are you have service capacity so you can go far beyond most other dealerships because you have plenty of bays, or maybe you offer mobile service, whatever the case may be. Is what is your identity? What is your strategy? Then comes, what are the pieces I need to solve the problem? So if I have an operational efficiency problem, maybe in the service drive, for example, and let's say, my service advisors are too jammed up on the phones, they're ringing off the hook, and you go back and you go, hey, we need to solve this. And you go, well, I already have a service scheduler here. I don't understand what the problem is. Okay, well, time out. Maybe that's that service scheduler is part of the problem. Maybe my people are part of the problem. Let's figure out what the problems are and what are the strategies we need to put in place to solve that problem. That is what we need to be focused on more than anything. If you have that understanding, a lot of these other conversations kind of start to mellow out, because when you're out and you're listening and you're looking at things, what aligns or resonates based on what you're trying to accomplish. So if someone says something that aligns with your strategy, okay, there's a value there, and it yields a conversation. And at the same point in time, if you're trying a product, great, try it out. But hold it to basically some of the indicators that you need to feel validated. If someone's coming to you with their reporting, I don't know if I'm really excited about that. I'm more excited of, hey, can you align what you're selling me to the things that I'm trying to measure? And if you can partner with me in that capacity so that I have a clear understanding because I measure everybody on the same baseline and success looks the same to me for whatever it is I sign up for, then now we have something to work with. Now we have a ground. And for the next X amount of time, I'm going to do a pilot, do a test, and pilot doesn't mean free, people. Everybody puts in work. I'm just saying you're testing something out to get a result. But that's kind of the essence of the beast. And I think if we started taking more of that approach and dealers took that approach, the success rate of products being implemented into a dealership, vendors, settling down on the fear of being fired and actually providing more service instead of just protection. I mean, we're playing defense instead of offense. That's the fundamental problem. Some pieces just play that part, and I get it. I mean, been on both sides of this spectrum, so it's not like I'm talking out both sides of my mouth. Don't know what I'm talking about. Yes, I have fired plenty of vendors, and yes, I've tried to keep my products in dealerships, and I've been fired too. So it is what it is. And somebody comes in because someone preached the new shiny widget, and out you go, and they can do it better. But we don't ask questions. I mean, if someone comes in and says, "Hey, I can do it better," okay, great. Well, how did you get to that claim? Do you even know who I use? Well, you tell me who you use. Oh, well, we do this better than they do.
Or we're the same tool, but we do it better and cheaper.
Can you show me how that is?
How? Yeah.
But no, we just go, okay. And then the phone rings and, hey, can we come back? Because it really wasn't what it was supposed to be. It's like,
so I was overpromised and under-delivered, so can I come back? All right, thanks.
Well, that happens frequently. I mean, it seems to be the software world. I'm sorry, it is what it is. Truth hurts. But at the same point in time, I think the other challenge to that statement is if you look at all the products that are being sold, you take a CRM, for example. Majority of dealers that have a CRM. Well, I'm not even going to say you use 50% of the product.
That's a way overshooting, I think.
No, I'm being generous. So let's just say you use it at 50%, but there's still 50% left over, and you're paying the freight.
Mm-hmm.
And then if you really do an analysis, and this is like one of my favorite ones, this goes all the way back to Vin Solution days. We had a replacement doc. It's like, tell me all the things you use. Right? How much do you pay? And hey, we can cut that in half because we do all those things for a fraction of the price. That was a fun starting ground. But as I progressed and got into Vistadash, and it's now the conversation when I lead into strategy is tell me everything you use. Let's understand what you're using and why you're using it. Because in some cases, what we find out is you have repetitive tools because one doesn't do this or this doesn't do that, or somebody doesn't like this because they like this better. Are you being effective?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the trying time for anybody is when you have to look in the mirror and do the gut check and say, are we using what we're paying for? Are we really being honest with our operational inefficiencies, or we're just buying more leads to ignore our operational inefficiencies? There becomes the conversation. But again, it's a challenge, and it happens in every business. I mean, I've spent a lot of my time outside of automotive when it comes to learning tech and looking at, what's the market doing? What are things going on? I mean, it's great that CDP is just a conversation. It's been going on for quite some time. It's nothing new. The AI, I mean, for the most part, most of it hasn't really even been true AI, but I digress on that one. So when we think about all these little buzzwords and we play a good game of buzzword bingo someday, I mean, I literally want to go to a conference and do buzzword bingo as a presentation because I think at the end of the day, what we'll find is if we can get past the fear mongering, the buzzwords, and all of the other fun things, and we just get into helping with the strategy to get to the end result of what the outcome needs to be, which is sell and service more vehicles, then everybody wins. But we just overcomplicate everything.
Yes, and yes. So let's pivot a little bit here and go into like how can I'll say a real credential person that I know I don't want to say expert again, but more someone that has done their homework, that knows what they're talking about. How can they stand out from the unqualified voices out there that are seeking fame? And then how can the consumers tell the difference?
I think there's two ways to look at it. I mean, one thing is either A, you kind of get to the points where you get on the soapbox and you beat the drum, which means you just go head to head. Or it's not about the present. It's kind of one of those things where I say it's not about your online image. It's about your offline image. And if you build that offline image, trust me, it may not look like you're winning, but you're winning.
Yes.
It's really kind of, it's to the individual. I mean, if you feel like you got to beat the drum, I mean, we all suffer from it. You and I have talked about it. It's like you wake up one morning, you see a bunch of stuff online, you're like, ugh. And then you're like, I should just go after it. And then all of a sudden you're like, I got 6 conference calls. I've got, you start looking at your life and going, is this a priority? And that's the part I think that everybody, a lot of these people out there that are running their business is it's a balancing act. So you got to kind of just go, what's the priority? Does the fight align with where you're trying to go? Do you need to go satisfy that echo chamber? I mean, most of the time I just look at it and go, well, that's an echo chamber.
Not going to do any good. It's not worth it.
And if you look at it, and that's what I'm saying, like a little secret, being a satellite times the social media, it's just because you don't see me there doesn't mean I'm there. I mean, you can build profiles, you can make them look pretty good, and then you can just chime in and listen and just observe and see what's going on and go, huh, okay, I see what someone's saying. I see why they're saying it. Yeah, no, I know. It's some people have figured it out. They're like, how do you know these things? I'm like, because I'm there. Well, I didn't see your image. I'm like, why would I show up? I don't want to talk. I just want to listen. I just want to hear what people are saying. I just want to observe. I mean, if you really want to be good at what you're doing, spend less time talking, more time listening.
These things right here called ears, they're for listening and hearing people. Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to being an expert. I'm just looking to be a student. I'm looking to continue to learn and progress. I want to understand what people are saying. It does, regardless if someone's blowing smoke or not, there's some truth in the lie. And that's what I always say. Everybody has value regardless of how you want to perceive it. The question is can you just pause what annoys you and listen for 1 second and figure out what's the truth in the lie? Because there's something in there, substance. So it gets you thinking of going, okay, I get it. I'm going to go down this path, or I'm going to go over here because I know if I go, outside of automotive for this particular digital component and tap into a resource or a learning point, because again, there's so many online classes, there's so many things. There's no shortage of information, and there's no shortage of education. So and I think there's a difference in being informed and being educated.
And we have so much information at our fingertips right now. Like I go back to either when I first got in the industry or whenever, and it's just like, you can go back 5 years ago, let alone 10 years ago, how much it is. It's crazy.
Well, it's easier in two aspects. It's easier to get misinformation and information. The question is you got to sit there and balance it out. So that's what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like news. If you just listen to one channel, then you're going to have one perspective. If you listen to multiple channels, you're going to have a very good, diverse understanding of what's going on, and you can put the lane together and figure out what the narrative is and what the story is collectively, and understand what is the information being disseminated across. So I don't know. It's such a challenging one, and it happens in every business. I think the reality to it is people just have to be more curious, ask more questions, and don't be afraid to ask the questions. And I think that's some of the stuff that does get people off the hook is they know if they're on the stage and they're in certain scenarios, like they're protected.
Yes.
It is what it is. I mean, I still wish for I've always said, whoever opens up a panel and it's just kind of like, hey, we're just going to ask the tough questions and we're going to give the audience a BS buzzer or something. Like, if you really just went for it. To me, I think that would be the most attended thing and people would get the most value out of it because you could just throw the topic lines and let everybody go after it. So the people that came and have, come out of the dealership that really don't have a strong background or pedigree that are, self-proclaimed experts, it's like they get a little dose of humility. And I do think that has to get dished a little bit too for people because, again, humility, if you don't have it, and you don't really kind of embrace the fact of being a little humble at times, it's going to come around and get you. And I think there's some people in our industry, they need a little humility because it's like, settle down.
Yes, they need to be maybe just knocked down a few notches. So just
I'm saying it nicely. If you're listening and you're saying, is he talking to me?
Probably. If you have to think about that, it's probably.
I'm just going to go with the long pause. Dramatic effect. Yes.
But no, I go back.
Someone's gonna watch this and be the wise,
They're like,
hey.
damn you.
Yeah. Now they're gonna text me like, are you talking to me? Stop.
The fact you had to ask. But I go back to I will say that when it was going back to we were discussing, and there were multiple questions that you threw out to me, and I didn't have the answer. And I went back to you afterwards. I just go, thank you for asking it. Now I know that there are other good people that are going to be like, oh, why would you ask that question? And I go, because if Dan is asking the question, I know that there's 10 other people that were too afraid or too timid to raise their hand and ask it. And the question needed to be asked. And much like you and I we have very similar brain waves when it comes to stuff, that there's very few questions that I'm not going to call someone out. I'll do it sometimes I'll do it politically correct, but sometimes it's just like, no, those questions need to be asked, because I know if I have that question, somebody else is going to have the same question. So I'm all for when the hard question gets asked, just because of those reasons. So I want to thank you for asking them.
But I think it's okay to say, here's the problem. It's okay to say, I don't know.
Yes. And that's exactly what I said. I don't know.
As a human, it is impossible for you to know everything. If you know everything, well, then you should probably be retired and worth billions. I mean, yes. If you know everything, you should understand how to make money.
Yeah.
So what I would say in that situation is, I ask questions not to play the game of stuff to chomp. I'm trying to say, yes, I know a lot of people are thinking things, and I know we're skipping over things that are going to have an impact. And then someone's going to be like, oh, gee, what happened here? It's like, I didn't know nobody asked the question.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I'm saying. When you get into some of these conferences, questions have to be asked. I think it's important. And what I would tell people all the time, and I've had a few people come up to me, after I said, well, I was kind of afraid. I feel like it was a dumb question. There's no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb question is the one that didn't get asked. Well, I'm going to be fair, because you could say that and someone says something. The dumb question is someone that's sitting in the crowd intentionally self-serving the question.
Yes.
Okay, that's a dumb question. But when someone's trying to better themselves or pose a question to generate conversation and thought, like a thought-provoking question, like, hey, if you're tracking calls, like, unfortunately for the call provider, they've got to run through their data point, which is generally, AWS, and then Google can sometimes say, no, I'm not taking that event. So you don't get a full catalog or a full true count. So that becomes a problem.
Yep.
So when you ask those, it shouldn't be like, oh my God, that's a trick question. Or, oh, Dan's going to remember. Great. No, we're in this together. I'm asking questions because there are people that really need to hear that.
It's a damn good question.
Well, and here's why. For all my phone provider friends, I'm trying to save them the bullet, because someone's going to go, because some expert or some whatever guru is getting on in a soapbox going, all your events need to be in GA, and if they're not, fire your vendors. The dealer goes, yeah, fire your vendors. And then the call provider stuff's not coming in good. And because they have challenges, because that's not how it works, and then they get fired. Well, that's not cool. That's not the end game. Like, if we don't have the information, people are going to draw false narratives, and someone pays the piper. And that's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of the false narratives. It's like saying websites are really fast and everybody should have a really fast website. And we have fast websites because we have fast websites. It's like, yeah, I understand that you have a fast website, but you're not taking into consideration that, unfortunately, in our industry, there are things that are governed and told to and mandated that have to be on that website that do impede speed. And I'm so sorry, but you can have the fastest website, but that doesn't really help the dealer. It sends them this message because of the fact they have to have these certain things that are compliant and mandated and so on. So unfortunately, the landscape is the landscape. So when you have nothing on your website and it's stripped down to just form only, your website should be rip, load, and fast, 100%. But the reality to it is there are other combatants that have to go into this. And this is where I'm saying narratives. There's SEO guys that sit there and weaponize certain aspects of SEO to the benefit or to the detriment, which is like, okay, you took a snippet, there was a paragraph describing how Google operates in the philosophical boundaries of SEO, and you reduced it down to 2 sentences and weaponized it.
Yeah.
But if you open it up, it actually highlights a different claim that doesn't really align with your claim. So therefore, that's the stuff I have problems with. Like, we have to be more thoughtful
picture.
And 100%, because if we're just going to go attack things to generate awareness, we're not really helping anybody.
Do you remember, and I know you do, so this is like a softball to you, but was when Google came out with not he didn't come up with it. It was a big, it seemed like everyone was pushing the Google speed test. And I go, would everyone stop looking at the damn Google speed test? One that's done on a 3G network. And at the time in America, we were on 4G at the time. And I go,
Which version are we talking about? Because I'm just curious. Because how
this
far
was
are we
like,
going back?
this was like, this is probably 5, 6 years ago. At least 5 years ago. Might have been 6, 7, might have been 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And Google, it seemed like everybody was pushing the Google speed test, Google speed test. Google. Like, you guys stop pushing Google speed test. That is done on a global network, on a 3G network, where people now have Wi-Fi. They're not on a 3G network. And most dealerships' websites are, once again, they're going to have multiple things coming on them. So why are we looking at a Google speed test? Get on, go, if you're going to test your website speed, do not use Google speed test. But everyone was pushing this. Oh, so your website speed test is, oh, it's horrible. I'm like, because you're using Google. And that was something that I can't remember what the company for whom I was working at the time, but I was combating that all the time. And I had to keep educating. I go, you're taking a very small thing that Google was pushing it as well. So we were fighting Google, but then we had OEMs pushing the Google speed test. I go, you guys stop.
Yes, because you had OEMs using a company to be not said. It is not. It's not that one. It's not.
It's a different one. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. It starts with a number, not a letter.
Yes.
Anyways, they were doing their audits, and everybody figured out how to gamify those audits.
Yes.
So part of the fundamental thing too to your point is when you get so fixated on creating over-indexing measurements, someone will figure out how to beat it.
Yes.
And so, are you measuring the right thing? Because I still laugh at the speed test. It's like, great, so your website's fast, but I just went on your mobile app and I can't get past the chat thing that's eating up the whole screen. I can't even click on the fact I want to look at, click on the VDP. I can't even click on the VDP button because this thing is covering it because I didn't inspect what I was doing.
Nope.
I think sometimes, again, this is where, buzzword or whatever mania you want to call it leads us down the wrong path because we're not even inspecting the simplest of things.
Yeah.
How many plugins do you have on your website? How is it intruding your website, whether it's on your desktop or on your mobile device? I mean, I sit in Tiger meetings and I'm like, hey, we're all going to play the game. So we go on websites and I'm like,
yep. How many? Yep.
And listen, for you don't have to be an expert in this game. It's just be a customer.
No.
Have yourself be a customer. Let's go on the website. Hey, you have a digital retailing tool. Great. What is it? Customer doesn't understand. DR. Customer isn't they
don't care.
Buy sitter. What's first a buy sitter? Oh, by the way, when you have a buy sitter, because we buy your car, why am I being trapped into trade it? And by the way, why am I not getting a unique landing experience that gives me something that's more robust that tells me why you're buying instead of the value of it and the upside of the no hassle, the know this. Hey, we're gonna buy your car. You don't have to buy anything from us. We're gonna improve it. Like, where is this? Instead, we have just these plugins and these little paid products that lead us down a path that create chaos and nausea for the consumer to transact simply. Oh, by the way, that one person that wants to sell a car, they do want to give you your first blood type, VIN number, and everything. They have a question. So can I chat? Can I text you right now? Can we get into a conversation?
No.
But we say it to a salesperson instead of a used car team.
Yeah.
So we're fundamentally people and process is flawed out of the gate, and the tech isn't even doing what it's originally supposed to be doing, but we bought on the buzzword and the philosophy. Whoa, what's our strategy?
Move more cars, but we're going to make it insanely difficult for any consumer on our site to find anything. And we're going to have 15 call to action buttons on the site to confuse the hell of the customer and give them button fatigue. Almost said button fatigue.
Because you're mixing something really bad with.
He was like, we're going to censor you because you know what F-bomb's going to come out of your mouth right now.
Hey, it's your show. I guess you can do what you want to. You know what I mean?
It's true. I knock on wood. I have not been kicked off the air yet. So.
Yeah. But I think that's that is really the fundamental challenge. We get hung up on all the wrong things, and someone's weaponizing something to get a point. So I would encourage people when someone comes in and says something like, "Oh, your load speed." Well, why does that matter? And tell me more.
Yeah.
Keep on talking about what it is they're talking about to see, are they just air? Like, is this a puffy chest bump? Is this a bunch of hot air? Like, what are you doing? And what is your point of this? So great, I have a load. Great. So my load sucks. What are you going to do about it? Did you go on my site? And what did you think? What
Mhm.
are some things I can improve?
Yeah. And how are
What
you
else would
getting
you recommend?
success for me? Because I know what success looks like to me, but how if it's just load time, how is that going to sell more cars for me? How is what you're saying going to be any different than what I have right now? Because it's not broken. So how are you going to fix if it's not broken?
Well, and if you use the Google load time through the API, technically speaking, it's atrocious because what it's calculating is the full load time of your site, not the compression that the website provider has put on your site to make sure that it loads really fast.
Yep.
So, like I said, if you're getting hung up on some of these numbers, go do it yourself. Be the consumer.
Yes. And with
If you're the
Google,
consumer and you're at your desktop, I mean, stop spending so much time googling your own name. Just focus on your website and some of, and your mobile experience and where those things are. Work your data. I mean, if we're talking about web data, for example, the only thing that really matters in this spectrum is conversion, and then where am I causing the customer the most pain?
yes.
Where's the drop off?
Or do you even look at that? I mean, are
Correct.
anybody
So
looking at
if I'm having
A/B
phone
testing that
spike,
shit?
correct. If I have phone spike and look at Google Business Profile, or I look at my my call tracking, where's my spike? So if it's Monday through Friday through 8 to whatever, what number are they calling from? Oh, it's off my website. Okay, great. What is that associated to? If it's off Google My Business, great. If it's what would be interesting to me is I would have a phone number on my service page and through my service scheduler that is different than any other phone number. So if that phone's ringing, I know my service scheduler isn't working. Or I want to go review the process because maybe it's a little too much for the consumer.
Mhm.
I'm not saying get rid of it, but not every. Our problem is we think every customer is going to do the same thing.
No.
Every customer's not going to do the same thing. You're not going to get emails diminishing, phone traffic, texting's picking up. If you look at all the behaviors that are going on, that's the stuff they're going to focus on. Less is more, but yet we want to do more things because the reason that we put so many bear traps out there is we want to collect as much information as we possibly can, at the detriment of the customer experience.
Mhm.
But for our own ego to say, "Oh, I got your information, bro. It's you, bro."
Yeah, because I'm telling you right now is that, hey, if you see someone on your lot, are you going to be up to go up and like, hey, you know what? I got this great form, but if you fill it out, you got to fill it out first, and then I'll talk to you. No, you're not going to do that. But yeah, we're going to do the exact same thing online. Like, why are we doing this? It makes
Well, why are we
absolutely
doing
no
that?
sense.
And at the same point, I'm going to send an email. It's going to take you forever to respond. It might hit your spam. Like, let's get to the conversation quickly. Let's move to a more direct communication path. Let's get into texting. Let's go right now. Right? If we think about the customer, we all know this. It hasn't changed. If you look at the stats, Monday through Friday are the busiest traffic times. So if Monday or Friday are the biggest time to interact with the customer before they're thinking about making their purchase, and we're in a BDC or we're tasking our salespeople, make phone calls, and after they go leave for the day and they do their log out, they're like, I called 50 customers, I left messages. Yeah, it's because they're at their work. So if you had a better communication path and something that actually connected with the customer on their terms when they want to, your success rate goes up and you would actually win.
It's a funny concept how that works. You actually care about the customer. You find out when the best time is to contact him or her. And oh, they actually enjoy texting more, but we're going to call them instead. Then why are you calling them if they said to text? I'm like, what are you doing?
100%. So again, I'm just going to go back to the simplicity. The byproduct of doing the right thing, creating the right customer experience, meeting the customer where they want to be met equals the result. Sell and service more cars. If you solve the pain, you as a kid, like if we're just customers for a minute, what's our pain? Time.
Mm-hmm.
I want time. Time is cloaked in the word convenience. It's cloaked in the word fast, speedy, so many different things. And if we focus on those and illustrate and tell the story in our marketing of our goal for you, Mr. Customer or Mrs. Customer, is to create a easy, fast, clean, frictionless customer experience, whichever buzzwords you want to use of that one. I think I stole a lot of people's buzzwords on that.
I don't know. I think I got to do a lot of
I'm not trademark infringing. I'm just reinforcing everybody's statements. Can't help myself.
I think I'm drunk after this entire conversation is all I know. It's much buzzwords that we've hit this time, Dan.
But if we do that, then we sell service more cars. But yet we're so focused on all this complexity and all this noise and this super inflated BS instead of just getting back to the basics and the simplicity of what are the simplest points of measurement, entry and exit, that I can understand if this is working or not. What is my strategy? How are those things aligning to it? Do those metrics matter? If they don't matter, stop. Every person has so many different reports on their desk right now. And if you came in and sat down with you, whether you're a dealer, vendor, whatever the case may be, and we went through the reports and said, what is this data telling you?
I don't know.
I'm like, oh, it's telling me amazing things, Dan. Great. Can you share with me what that means?
Tell me one actionable item from the report that you just were given.
Most of them would say, Dan, there's so much here I don't even have time for. I wish I just had a single, easy report that just gave me the critical mass. Mm-hmm. And it's like, my comment back is, well, you control that. So why don't you are in control of your destiny. Stop settling for all the data that's being dumped on you. Move it aside and create the data line that you need to understand success against your strategy. And if you can shrink those numbers of points of KPIs, then you're probably in the right swim lane.
Focus on what matters. That's it. And sometimes it is very difficult because there's so much being thrown at you of, oh, you need to measure this. You need to measure this, measure this. Oh, this is the hot topic to measure now. Find, prior to GA4, I mean, you know this as well, it was engagement, zero engagement. Those are the things like, and then impression share, like those are the things, not just impression, but like impression share lost by rank, by budget. Like those are the things that I know that like were really, really big that we were looking at and constantly looking at to say, didn't matter if it was on the CRM, didn't matter if it was a third party side, didn't matter if it was organic, everything. But those are the things that were really, really important because from there you can say, okay, this third party provider, this vendor, this lead provider, whatever, you automatically knew that regardless how someone felt, you could have the data to back it up and the facts to back it up to say, this is doing well. This has some area of improvement. This is not doing well. And hey, why are we spending so much money here when this XYZ model is actually, the majority of the traffic is on organic? Why are we paying for it then? There's no reason to do a paid. Like, start looking at
why don't you do paid inventory on all my vehicles? You don't. Because some of them organically are going to win.
No.
But it goes, that's a good one. The third party lead providers. I mean, talk about the ones that take most of the punches.
Oh man, yes, they do.
So, in that scenario, I always say, data does matter there because we get hung up on, okay, well, I had X number of CRM leads, closed X. Okay. And then you can kind of tie in the website traffic, great. That gives you another snapshot, which by the way, when you really track the website, you get the conversions, which really become that credit goes to the website for a lead. I didn't know the website was the lead source of your paid search and all of the other things that you're doing, but it takes credit for that.
Yeah.
Because we haven't evolved that tech stack to really kind of pass through to the CRM and the website of like, really, hey, here's really who drove that. Your website is your dealership. So I guess your dealership is responsible for everything you did, and you should probably cancel all your marketing.
Obviously. Yeah.
Ooh, sarcastic rant. And we're back. So when you get past that moment in time here, it just gets back to simplify what you're trying to do. And with the third parties is you've got to look at it in a couple different lights. Some people are looking at what's my cost per sale, right? And oh my God, I'm going to cancel, Auto Traders. It's $745. And Cars is $5, and Car Gurus is $350. Okay. Do you have enough data? Because if you took it one step further, you looked at gross profit by source, you might find out that maybe for that few $100 more, you had over a 5x return on gross profit. So maybe it's not such a bad thing after all.
Yeah. Because if you're only looking in your CRM for that data, you are sorely mistaken on what you're actually making on and what if it's being profitable for you. You're not seeing what it's actually bringing to the website and what traffic's bringing there. You also, and you and I have been through this exercise so many times, trying to figure out, okay, from that third party provider, hey, Mr. Dealer, are you pricing your vehicles? Are they priced to market? Do you have photos? Do you have more than one photo? Do you have videos? Do you have all the, because if you're leaving your third party provider out to dry and not having any of that information, as a consumer, I can tell you right now, there are so many studies out there to show if there's no pricing, if the photos suck or they're not photos, why would I even interact with that? Because I'm not going to, but the bottom line, I'm not going to. But now you're going to cancel them when in fact, you don't even have the information out there for the consumer to click on it. So there's so many factors that go into it, and yet they're just going to take the brunt of it because, oh, they suck. Well,
Well, I mean, listen, everybody's frustrated because again, they originally started, somebody put, inventory for free, then charge for it, then start charging for it, then charge more for it, then charge more for it. I get it. But at the same point in time, they've spent a lot of money to get consumers awareness to come there as a source that here's the broad selection, much like when we go to Amazon. I mean, we're not badgering how many different products are being sold on Amazon. It's the same thing. We all love Amazon because it's convenient, it's fast, easy. So they started at the third parties and then work their way down. You can spend all the paid search money in the world. You're not going to get them to start with you. There's going to be, and I'm sure someone's going to be like, don't call BS on you, Dan. Please do.
oh, I want to be there for that conversation.
Because you can see, I mean, yeah, I go back to Google. They did this thing called Zero Moment of Truth way back in the day, and they talked about the multi-touch. And then, oh yeah, that's right, multi-touch attribution. Yeah, drink to that.
Hold up. Got another drink.
Yep, got that one. I can get them all. It's so easy. So you guys didn't really know this was the secret game that we were playing. Is I told I'm going to get you on every buzzword and I'm going to slide it in there like clockwork. Surprise! Best show ever. But the reality to it is that if you're looking at across the plate, is stop being irritated. Focus on the consumer. If you just focus on the consumer, you focus on the game. And I think sometimes we get frustrated because again we go into feelings. Mm-hmm. So my feelings are hurt because these providers came in and monetized off my hard work, me building a dealership, me purchasing the inventory. They've got no skin and risk in the game because I'm the one carrying the freight on the inventory. So I have a little bitterness to me. I relate, been there, done that. Also fired a few of them several different times. And then I realized, and that was kind of the premise of this dash too, was it's time to get over the feelings and let's get into the facts. Yeah. And the reality to it is there's a combination of what works, and there is a level of that. Do I need to know the granular level of attribution? Not necessarily. Depends on what I'm trying to do. And that's the beautiful word of some of these buzzwords. Attribution, by definition. Everybody has a different definition of automotive. The reality to it is at the dealer level, I mean, when you take time to actually just go ask people the question, I mean, eat your own dog food. I went out to dealers, I said, what's attribution? And majority of them said, Dan, I just want to know, did AutoTraderCars.com, do they work? Are they generating people to my website? Because the rep comes in and says, you get a lot of traffic to your website. I can't quantify it. Boom, quantified. Website leads. Here they are. Oh my God. But now, I mean, but we're over baking the cake. I got to get down to, well, Brooke.
Yeah.
Brooke bought a car. Great. Well, yeah. Attribution at that lower level becomes a little bit of a mislead because it's after the fact. So when Brooke came in and bought an F-150 and I'm saying attribution and I'm going to try and replicate it. Well, if next month 0% for 72 is gone, your F-150s are going to be a different ballgame now.
Yep.
So do I care of replicating that person, that audience? Because I don't have it anymore. I need something different. So that's where enter the CDP. CDP.
Hold up.
How to get
I'm not going to have anything left after this, Dan.
So the question just becomes, again, bringing it full circle and closing this loop, because Brooke and I could go on for like hours on this stuff.
Yes.
At the end of the day, it's this. Focus on your strategy. Focus on the components and the gaps in which isn't being solved in your strategy. Then evaluate the products, the things, the people that can help you move the needle and solve those problems. And then hold them accountable to fair measurement on what your business needs to measure. And if you have an honest conversation with your partner and say, hey, this is how I'm going to measure you, and these are the expectations, they're either going to do it or not going to do it. It's pretty straightforward.
It really is. Like you said, it just comes down to keep it simple, stupid. Like I'm looking at like, holy crap, I can't believe we've been talking for over an hour now. It's.
I know. I saw in the corner. I'm like, the hook's coming.
Like, and play him off the stage.
It's not me, friend. I was the one that called the first audible. So
and I keep looking over. I'm like, oh, we probably should wrap this up here. But it is like, just keep it simple. Like, we don't make it so difficult as we tend to do in our industry. So, Dan, I know you've been on the show before, but we do have to get into the lightning round with you. But we're going to ask you maybe one or two of the same questions and then mix it up. So first and foremost, for those that are watching, we've got Dan's nice little personalized link right here. For those that are listening, how can they find you? How can they get in touch with you?
It's easy. LinkedIn, obviously an easy one. Dan Moore at mydealerworld.com. I mean, again, there's so many. It's not complicated to get a hold of me on some social profile. Shoot me a message. If not, catch me at a conference. Don't blame me if I have amnesia and forget who you might be.
He's probably on some stage speaking at this point, so you'll find him wherever he is.
Yeah, I'll be somewhere.
Or Disneyland.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's probably at some Disney on top of that. Just find him.
Oh, yeah, Disney. Well, yeah, Disney's like, I mean, that's a magical place where you can escape insanity.
That's right. Okay.
All pixie dust and move on.
Hello. Okay, name of the show is Facts Not Feelings. So whether it's in personal life or in your professional life, how are you differentiating facts from feelings?
I think for me, it's just being, you have to have self-awareness at the end of the day. We're all going to hit the feeling button occasionally. It's just a question of like, can you check the door and say, am I being factual about what I'm stepping into, or is this just an emotional call? And I think, obviously, 6.5 years of Vista Dash is a testament to the fact that facts really kind of matter. But I mean, again, we're humans. And occasionally we get sucked into the fun, especially if someone's on the soapbox just preaching lunacy. That gets me a little feeling. It gets my feelings going.
I love it. So I did ask.
I'm passionate about the industry, Brooke. I'm passionate.
A little bit. So before I ask the last question is, what do you love most about the industry?
I think I love most about the industry is the relationships. When you really think about this industry and the amazing people in it, there's some, I just have amazing relationships. I have amazing people that are supportive. I support them. They support me. To your point, we all have our circle. We can pick up the phone and be like, hey, dumb question. That's a good place to be. And I think that's the beauty of the industry is there's a lot of great people. I mean, we've made jokes about certain instances and how to detect things. But at the end of the day, that we're talking about the smallest percentage of a broad industry that has a lot of great people and a lot of people that'll help you, give you a shirt off the back. There's a lot of great people in this business that will help you. And you know, my successes are because of that group, those friends that I call friends, those mentors, and just the clients. I mean, I've touched a lot of clients, and you know, I'm grateful for that. And it's nice that a lot of them would become my friends over the years. So it's a totally different game when we have conversations.
Yes, and I'll second that. Lifetime friends out of this industry. So you could have one superpower. What's it going to be?
Teleportation. No. Yeah, I like that. Invisible sounded good, but then, you know, someone's going to read into that. You have to think too, like, it was like cheesy. Or you're trying to hide from something. There's all kinds of ways so I was thinking in my mind, what's the one thing you really can't run away from? And I like teleportation because I'm always about time. So if I could be where I want to be as fast as I could be, that just means I've got more time. So snap, I'm at a conference, and snap, I'm back home. Snap, I mean, could you imagine that?
Then no more frequent flyer miles. It's kind of nice. Okay, I like it. Yeah. No.
I mean, the first is that you still have to have a plane because that's saying your superpower. So only I can tell.
That's true. Beam me up, Scotty. Yeah, it only works for you. Okay, I see.
Yeah. But it just means my ability to scale and make impact goes up exponentially, and I think I began for that. So
I like it.
If I'm traveling with the family, I like to be on a plane.
Okay. All right. So I did ask this question last time, but the answer has changed. And I was full out Googling this car. So what is your favorite car now since last time?
Well, you have to say it because I think it's more fun if you say it than I say
it. I can't.
It was a Koenigsegg Agera was the original one that I had, and now I switched gears. And the new one is the newer version, and it looks like it's literally a jet fighter.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah, they just have different appeal.
It came out. Is it came out 2020 or 2021?
Yeah,
that's. I literally, they're the closest dealership to us is in Lake Bluff, and it is gorgeous, absolutely stunning. Yeah. And I think that they're around is it 3 million? How much are they around?
Yeah,
Boggle.
If you're seeing any car, there's no limit to it. I mean, Bugatti's a Bugatti, and listen, it's a beautiful car, but there's something about the way they designed that car that is just phenomenal.
It's stunning. It's stunning. Well, Dan, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I so appreciate one, you first and foremost, and two, for being on the show and coming back on the show and bearing with me for the first time around, because I think you were like the third or fourth guest, I want to say. Maybe I don't even, you may have been the second guest, I'm not sure, but you're very early on and bearing with me as I didn't know what the hell I was doing. So I super appreciate you coming back on the show and just for everything that you're doing and moving the industry forward and just being just an incredible human being. Just thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate that. And with that, everyone, you know the drill at this point. Find a way to serve today. Find a way to just help somebody, whether that is opening a car door for someone or just a kind smile. Just find a way to help someone and be the joy in someone's life. And with that, everyone, we will see everybody next week.